books.
Nothing is impossible.
Sci-fi.
Just
Anime.
do it.
If you've been made fun of for it, we're probably going to talk about it.
What are you waiting for?
This is Nerd Radio.
Make your dreams come true.
Headbutt at the mic. I was busy air drumming over here.
Don't break that mic. I got to use that mic.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's Nerd Radio, wherever you're getting your podcast, as part of the B-Pod Studios Network and all over your social media at NerdRadio101. I'm your host, Chuck Bean, and I'm here joined by the man in the MASH hat, Al Beck.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
The Nerd Radio Care Bear. The self-proclaimed
Nerd Radio
Care Bear.
That's right.
And the other
I'm just
voice.
a fucking joy.
Wow. Off to a great start. The other voice you hear, of course, is James.
Yes. Hello.
Happy to have you both. You got a lot of emotion in your voice today, too.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something witty I could say about myself, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to compliment myself. That's not right.
That's
James
on
the
somebody
Humble.
else.
Yes.
That's on somebody else to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're here to tell you what's going on in the world of nerds. Of course, the big news over the last weekend was E3 and the Summer Games Fest. So we'll get into some of the new games that me and Al and James won't play for another 5 years or so.
Sweet.
And
Well, Al for sure. I might play it within like the next couple years.
Yeah. And we'll start, though, with the biggest news in the world of nerds, and that is the news of the Batman. You guys hear about this? The one of the showrunners on the Harley Quinn cartoon, which is a fantastic show, by the way.
Yeah, that's on HBO Max?
Yeah, I'm just catching up on the second season right now. And
Wow, there's already 2 seasons of it out.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a blast. But one of the people that work on that said in an interview, and I'll quote, "It's incredibly gratifying and free to be using characters that are considered villains because you have much more leeway." He gave an example that in the third season that they were putting together for the Harley show, they had a moment where Batman was supposed to be going down on Catwoman.
Whoa!
And DC gave him a hard no and
No,
said
huh?
Batman doesn't do that.
Well, he's the superhero. He doesn't probably perform acts of such dirty, naughty sexual gratification.
Said heroes don't do that, but they'll let the.
I bet you he would receive it. I bet you would they let Catwoman perform on Batman?
Yeah, well, she's technically a villain, so it sounds like
So
she.
villains do all the dirty stuff in the bedroom. Huh?
Right.
Well, I'm going to give DC a break on this. Here's my take on this whole
Really?
situation. Yeah. My personal life, I think that act should be done by both people involved in the act. Both people should be taking part in the tasting of bits.
This is James on the stance of 69s.
Yes.
Yep. Thumbs up. I'll give it 2 thumbs up.
With Batman music underneath
my
him,
approval.
it's fantastic.
But he's the hero, man. He already sacrifices so much. His life, sometimes his body, his money, his time to keep the city safe, to keep the citizens of Gotham out of the clutches of the Joker and Catwoman and Bane and all those bad guys.
Right.
So maybe when's it time for the hero to receive something?
They didn't say he doesn't get to receive it ever.
Let him just be the receiver. He already gives enough. Why does he have to give more?
Well, if
He's got to give more in the bedroom too?
if he's going to be in the bedroom with
And he's going to give more
someone?
to a villain who's technically, possibly, partially arch
Look,
nemesis?
He decided that he wanted the cat. Even if he doesn't want to taste the cat.
Well, maybe he does want to taste, but DC's saying no. You know?
I think he doesn't go down there because he's rich and he thinks he doesn't have to.
I was just going to say that I feel like it's because he's a billionaire. It's got nothing to do with being a hero.
Right.
You know, but
You think Bezos doesn't go down?
I think no.
Yeah, I don't think he. If you've got that kind of money, you don't
Are you
have
going
to
to pay somebody to go down for you?
You don't have to be any good in the bedroom.
Oh, okay.
You can pay somebody
Oh,
else
man,
who
we-
is good in the bedroom.
We ran out. Let's start this over
You
again.
ran
There
out
we
of
go.
Batman music.
And we did. I think it's honestly, I think it's DC getting up on their high horse after allowing the Bat Dong to fly. And,
Yeah.
Like that happened. It maybe wasn't DC specific, but they let it fly.
Because it wasn't animated, it wasn't flopping around like bat wings.
It flops now that you got that comic book from me.
Yeah. I'm always going to flop.
He said bat wings, and all I can picture is
The bat wing? Yeah. Yeah. All of a sudden the movie Waiting comes to mind.
Exactly. Exactly. No, actually, they said that the reason they told them they couldn't have Batman performing oral sex on Catwoman is because they sell consumer toys for heroes, and it's hard to sell a toy of Batman if he's going down on someone.
I don't think it'd be that hard to sell the toy, but
I don't think so. I think you can sell completely new toys.
I feel like they're hung up on the hero villain part. Like they're like, heroes don't do that.
Yeah.
You saying heroes don't perform oral pleasure on
Because I'm pretty sure
other
they do.
heroes? Like, what if Wonder Woman was like, hey, Bruce Wayne?
Wonder Woman's a slippery slope because she could just crush your noggin with them thighs.
Well, then you better do
if
a
you
good
get
job.
Well, if she gets too into
You better not take that tongue too far down south if she's not prepared for that.
in the same way that Superman could blow the back of your head off.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't. I mean, I don't think you want to do that.
Yeah. This is like the perfect like Kevin Smith discussion, I feel.
It really is.
What's Kevin Smith's take on the
It really
whole
is. It's what that scene
Battlingus.
in Mallrats.
Yeah.
Where the guy's asking Stanley about the thing.
Yeah, the thing's Johnson. Like I've always wondered, Mr. Fantastic's wiener, does it keep growing and growing and growing and growing? You know?
Yeah.
How hard is it?
Yeah.
Now there's some floppy right there for you.
Floppy. You could jump rope with it.
Yeah. No, I knew when I saw this that I was like, well, I got to ask James about this. And you surprised me. You surprised me you take DC's.
Well,
that's why I said my personal life is a different take than what I feel like DC's doing with this.
I feel like the question on the table for James, though, is not does he want to see Batman performing, or maybe that's the thing. He'd rather watch Batman be performed on. Could that be it?
Oh, I really didn't have a thought of that.
Well, now that you do have the thought.
Actually, I think I would rather watch Batman perform on Catwoman.
You know what this is going to be perfect fodder for? The next season of The Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. I'm sure that'll be worked in there somewhere.
What is the Homelander is absolutely getting some in the third season of
and
The
I feel
Boys
like
at this
the
point.
Homelander, he's in the view of the public, he's the hero.
Right.
In the view of the public, he's the hero.
Yeah.
There's no way the Homelander's performing. But then also we know the Homelander's into other weird stuff.
It's
like
true.
Lactation and stuff. Like, meow.
Was that Eartha Kitt?
That was Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, okay.
I have been trying since we started talking about this
to
find her just saying meow. And that is the best I could do.
You want to play it again? No, you searched so hard for it. Meow. There you go.
It wasn't even a good one.
Yeah, I've also enjoyed the fact that the internet, specifically Twitter, has taken to this and completely headcanoned. I can't remember. Somebody on my Twitter was headcanoning all the different
What's
villains.
headcanoning?
Like establishing, like, in my head, this is canon.
Okay.
And it was establishing all the different villains.
So not
like
canon.
Is that kind of like a delusion
canon.
then?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Like fanfic.
Okay.
If you like very short fanfic, but somebody in my Twitter had a whole thread about all the different villains in Gotham City and who was good at it and who was not.
Oh, that's that's something to think about.
Yeah. One of them said the Joker is amazing at it and no one finds out because they're not that crazy. You don't want to know what he might do down there.
Oh.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be unpredictable.
Well,
They said Bane was really good at it. They said the Penguin is awful.
Yeah, the Penguin doesn't strike me as a very caring lover.
Yeah.
Not very generous.
If you haven't checked out that Harley Quinn show, though, like I said, we're making our way through season 2 now, which is a year old at this point. But that's the season where Poison Ivy is supposed to get married to Kite Man, and
I forget there's a Kite Man in DC.
Because Kite Man, hell yeah.
I think he was in Arkham Knight, wasn't he? Like he had to chase him all over the town with the
Was he?
Batmobile.
Oh no.
Maybe.
I think
Maybe it wasn't Kite Man. Maybe it was somebody. I can't remember.
It sounds like a villain from Mega Man. I'm sorry.
It does. My exposure to Kite Man was Tom King's run of Batman. Like he was kind of a joke villain because he is a joke villain. He's just a guy with a kite. But every time he showed up, he would say his name. He'd say Kite Man, hell yeah, and then Batman would punch him right in the face. Amy is like, she's read some of those comics and she's like, this Kite Man guy is ridiculous. But there is an episode in the series where you find out Kite Man's arch nemesis is Condiment King, which is another crazy.
That's another name that blows my mind.
50s
Condiment King.
Batman villain that would just spray people with mayonnaise and mustard and
Is
ketchup.
his arch nemesis Peanut Butter and Jelly Lad?
But we found out in the series, and this is true in the comics too, that Kite Man's real name is Charles Brown.
Really, Charlie Brown?
His name is Charlie Brown.
Come on, man. And no original names they could have come up with. They go Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
He's the Condiment King. They couldn't have called him That's who we're talking about, right? The Condiment
No,
King?
Kite Man.
Oh, Kite Man. Yeah, no,
Kite Man's real name is Charles
and
Brown.
Charlie Brown did have an issue with kites.
Yeah, I'm sure that
If
was
you go back
that
to
was
the
the
thing,
thought
yeah,
when
that would
they
make
put
sense.
Kite Man
Okay.
together.
Sorry, I thought we were still on Condiment King. I'm like, why wouldn't his name be like Dr. Catsup or something?
Kite Man, hell yeah!
This is entrance music into the wrestling ring.
Right? That would be fantastic.
it's Kite Man.
Somebody comes down to the wrestling ring and they're just like kind of,
Yes.
peanuts
They're doing, like,
dancing
the
down the
Bernie?
ring.
I mean, hey, good grief goes right along with Jeez Louise.
It
It
does.
does. It would definitely be an AEW wrestler.
What do you think of your cage match tonight with Kurt Angle? Good grief.
Ugh. He's got, Snoopy's his valet. He's got like a furry as his valet that brings him in. He's got a hype dog.
Oh, man. So while we're talking about TV shows, let's move on over to the Marvel side of things because last week was the first episode of Loki.
Yeah.
That was, you guys check it out?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. You don't get anything immediately first week.
I did.
Yeah.
Because my girlfriend was also interested in that show. Yes.
all right.
It did not make it through the whole episode. She didn't. I did.
Really?
But yeah, no, she lost interest real quick.
So, I mean,
and-
this is the first and last episode Al will be watching.
Of Loki.
For a
I'll
while.
get to the rest of it in 3 months.
Right.
But
So what were your thoughts in the first episode?
you know what? I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know, I was not looking forward to it because WandaVision was okay, but it also scratched a few of my itches.
Right.
So that one kind of, got away with it. And then Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I was bored by that.
Yeah.
It didn't need to happen, that show. I don't know. I didn't care for it. So I wasn't excited going into Loki, but as we all know, if I fall a couple seasons behind, I'm out.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not ready to fall off the wagon completely yet. So let's give it a go and watch the first episode. And I had a good time.
Nice.
I did like it.
Yeah, it's full of time travel stuff.
Yep.
Which me and
Some
you,
timey-wimey stuff.
me and you being Doctor Who fans, that's definitely appeals to us. What about you, James? What'd you think?
Yeah, that's okay. I'm
Yeah.
not sold on it yet, but I'm interested enough to see another episode. I think, it was fairly well done.
How would you compare it to your experience of Falcon and the Winter Soldier or the premieres of the other two?
I would say right now this is far superior to Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I think I'm still hung up on that whole mortgage thing, man. Like going to the bank.
You can't get over that.
Now, if Loki went to the bank and they were like, "No, you can't get this loan because you're the god of mischief or something," I'd be out. Sorry, we can't loan gods.
Yeah, but would you loan money to the God of Mischief?
Well, I think he's gonna do something mischievous with it. and
Right.
So I would
And
consider
you're
it.
probably not going to get it back.
Well,
Yeah,
we'd have
'cause
to
that's
have a talk.
mischievous.
I'd be like, "Hey, man, how much? When am I going to see a return on my investment?" And we'd have to sit down and go over some paperwork.
We're going to
and
talk
stuff.
APR.
Yeah. But no, it's interesting. It's hard for me to say without explaining exactly how it ended because I'm still kind of like, that's what they're hunting down.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Are you, I can't remember because there's so many opinions on the morning show.
Mhm.
I can't remember where you fall with things like timelines and multiverses.
I find them incredibly confusing.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I feel like this could possibly be confusing. But the first episode was fine. I think Owen Wilson's got a cool character. I think it's a cool little sect of the Marvel universe, like those time keepers or whatever they are.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting concept. I'm confused how exactly Loki did some of the stuff that he did in this first episode because I'm like, you guys are the timekeepers. You guys really messed up.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think that goes to the fact that they show that they're kind of just a bureaucracy. So there's a lot of red tape
Yeah.
and there's a lot of stuff going on that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kind of stuff going on.
I will say a thing that's annoyed me kind of along the lines of the bank loan thing, I guess, in a way. And this doesn't really spoil anything. We've already said that there's timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah.
But I think Loki brings up the fact, like, well, the Avengers went back in time.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, they were supposed to do that. Oh, come on.
Well, I'm sure they knew
Shut up.
when they were putting this show together and they knew there was going to be some time travel, shenanigans in there that they were like, okay, people are immediately going to want to know, well, why did the Avengers get a pass? So we're going to have to figure out an explanation for that.
Yeah, and I think what they gave was decent enough because essentially the Avengers went back in time to mess with stuff for the greater good of the actual timeline.
Right.
Loki was going back in time to change things to benefit himself.
Sure,
the
yeah.
timelines, and that's why they put the kibosh
Right.
on that.
I liked the psychoanalysis of Loki too. Like I've seen that in the comics before, where somebody has talked to Loki about the fact that the only reason you chose to be a villain is because you know a villain is necessary, not because you're actually evil, but because you know that somebody like Thor needs something a villain to rise up against, and that's the only reason you do some of the things you do. It's not because you enjoy murdering people or you enjoy being a jerk. Sometimes he enjoys being a jerk,
absolutely.
for sure.
I can tell he does.
Sometimes it's a blast. But I thought that part was really cool. I didn't know that the Time Variance Authority was a thing, an actual thing from the comics, until somebody had brought it up. But it's because they've got Kang the Conqueror, who was supposed to show up in the Ant-Man movie as he's a time traveler from the Avengers. He's a time traveling villain from the Avengers, but they've been part of the comics there. And also the reason Owen Wilson has that little like Howard Stark mustache is because the character in the comics, Mobius, is based on a editor they had at Marvel called Mark Grunwald, and he just passed away a couple of years ago. And they when they put this together, they were like, he should have Grunwald's mustache on, because Grunwald always had that mustache.
Oh, okay.
And that they did that as kind of a tribute to the guy. So I thought that was really, really cool. It's fun. It's not going to be long. I think it's only going to be 8 episodes or 6 episodes. It's going to be a pretty short
I'm okay
series.
with that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like 2 months.
It's a far cry from before we had streaming service shows where, a network show would have to be like 22 or 26 episodes for a season.
Well, I feel like when you have seasons that are that long, you have a lot of filler. There's a lot of time to fill.
Yeah.
23 episodes, if you're a 60-minute program, that's a full day's worth of content you have to produce to tell a story. So you have to, I think there'll be less filler with like a shorter season.
And while we're talking about streaming stuff too, before we take a break, a couple of weeks ago, FX announced the premiere dates for a bunch of stuff that's they're going to premiere on Hulu as well as on their station. But
FXXXX.
Yeah, they do put a lot of X's in there, don't they?
I was like, is this a porn channel?
I know.
Oh no, it's just The Simpsons 24/7. Okay,
I'll subscribe to that FXXX.
But the stuff that jumped out of me is that there's an American Horror Story kind of anthology series that each episode is a standalone, like almost Twilight Zone like.
Oh, very cool.
And they don't connect into one big story like most seasons do. That's coming up July 15th. And then the next season of American Horror Story is supposed to come up August 25th.
What's the theme around this one?
Give me a second. I'll look it up.
Oh, okay.
There's also a American Horror Story double feature is what it's called.
Do they still have the same cast and everything for the American Horror Story? Because it's always that same woman and guy. The guy that plays Quicksilver or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah, he shows up almost. There's a handful of the same actors and actresses they use, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah.
If you're gonna
use the same crew to tell different stories.
If you're gonna have the same cast in a show, over multiple seasons, and you want to do something cool, like just start the show over every season and make them play new characters.
Yeah.
It gives them a lot of range too.
Because really the only American Horror Story I paid a lot of attention to was the Carnival one.
Okay.
And I got up to the point where Neil Patrick Harris showed up, and then for whatever reason I stopped watching.
Yeah. I think
it was like a mid-season, and then I never got. They lost me after that.
I really enjoy the show, but at the same time, I don't know that it's good.
Okay.
Like there was the hotel season that had Lady Gaga in it. Half of the season I hated. The front half of the season I was like, I'm not gonna watch this show anymore. This show is dumb as hell. This show is stupid. The sequence of events doesn't match up to a timeline of any sort whatsoever.
If I listen back to this podcast, I don't want you to edit out the fact that you said Sazon.
Sazon.
I didn't even catch that. You said
Sazon.
Yeah. And now I'm going to start playing music under everything you do so you can't edit it.
So I can't edit it? Just make it harder to edit, you bastard. When the music goes all weird. But then midway through the season, there was an event that happens that absolutely explains why the front half of the season made no sense.
Oh,
I was like, you bastards, you got me again.
Brought you back in. Yeah, I think we watched the first episode of that, my fiance and I, and she was out. So I was like, okay, I'm out too.
Yeah. But they also announced that What We Do in the Shadows comes back for a third season, which is my favorite show on television. September the 2nd.
Oh, just in time to get the spooky season started.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. American Horror Story usually starts around September too, so they roll right through Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what they're doing, bringing it out so early. Except for the
talk
fact
about Halloween, I'm getting excited for the fall. We're just at the peak, the beginning of summer.
Yeah. They also announced we knew that they were doing a show about Why the Last Man, which was a DC Vertigo comic book about a virus that annihilates every dude on the face of the planet except this one guy. So it's him and a whole bunch of women in a post-apocalypse. And the show for that is coming out September the 13th.
It sounds like a rough situation to be in at times, but also a good situation to be in at other times.
Yes. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's going to be on FX and Hulu that I'm looking forward to. Also, did you guys hear? I saw this a month ago. Games Workshop is developing a Warhammer streaming service.
Really?
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with the Warhammer
I am. Yeah,
tabletop
it's like
game?
it's like a Dungeons and Dragons type of game, but you're Space Marines, right?
Right. Yeah, it's strictly like there are some
I'm
role
thinking
playing.
Warhammer 4000 or whatever.
Yeah, there's Warhammer 40K, and then regular Warhammer. I think is a fantasy version of 40K is supposed to be the Space Marine version of it, but it's mainly a game. There's some role playing aspects, but it's mainly a game where you buy a ton of miniatures. You spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on miniatures. You paint them all up, and then you put your armies on a table and you move them against each other.
It's like the game is designed just to sell little minifigures, and then to have an excuse to own all these little minifigures is I play it in this game.
Right.
Like almost like how the He-Man action figures came to be and the cartoon came to be. They're like, let's make action figures, and then we'll get somebody to put out this cartoon.
Right.
And we'll have a comic book.
But yeah, they're doing their own streaming service, and they've announced like 11 shows all in the Warhammer 40K universe that are currently in development. Nobody in this room is
it's a program, like it's something we'll be able to watch.
Yes.
I was thinking it's like some sort of a streaming game, like a MMORPG, like a massively multiplayer.
No, they're making shows that all take place in the Warhammer universe.
Okay. I didn't realize there was a demand for all that Warhammer.
I didn't understand that they had made so much money on little tiny miniatures that they could start their own streaming service, and B, there was such a demand for content about the miniatures that they'd made.
That's got to be the go-to move everybody's making. You have something that has just even the smallest little niche. You start creating streamable content that people can go in and consume.
Right.
And you just keep putting out new content until it takes off. I wonder if they're just throwing their hat in the ring for that.
I'm also fascinated that they didn't mention as part of the streaming service any kind of like tournament, coverage or anything like that, or people playing the game, because I would think if you were making content specifically for the people who play the game, then maybe you would make content of people playing the game.
Do they have big tournaments like that?
I know that, when they have like Gen Con and stuff, they will have Warhammer
just people who have the
tournaments
coolest figures will have the most powerful army to
yeah,
win?
pretty much. Because
or do they have rules to where you have to have certain types of figures?
Yeah, the rules you have to, because there's different types of armies, and then you can only have so many points worth of figures on the table.
Okay,
so it's
a
little bit
find
like
a way to find some balance,
like the Hero Clicks or something like that. Hero Clicks was like Warhammer but cheaper.
I would just show up. I'd be like,
superheroes.
I dropped $3,000 on my I don't know, looks like a Minotaur warrior. He'll wreck everybody's army.
Yeah. When I used to work at the game store, there was a handful of guys that would come in to play Warhammer, and they would show up when we opened at like 11 in the afternoon. 11 in the afternoon, and we would close at 7 at night, and they would have gotten 2 rounds in. And then I would go home, and the owner would stick around, and they would play till, I don't know, like 4 in the morning or something.
Oh, dude, if I was the owner, I'd get the hell out of my store, man. I got to go home and play my own video game.
I can't think of anything I want to do all day like that.
Yeah, same here. I get bored of stuff too quick. Like an hour or two, then I need to switch to do something else. I can come back.
Right.
Give me 30 minutes to an hour to focus on something else, and maybe I'll come back and play. But
I was just talking to a friend yesterday about the fact that I was going through some old video game magazines that I have, and remembering the fact that back in the PlayStation 1 era, I would get so good at like Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2 that I could beat the whole game in one sitting.
Wow.
And now that seems bonkers to me.
And how many hours would it take you to get through the whole game?
2 hours.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. Like once you've
you
played it.
Beat Resident Evil in 2 hours?
Once you've played it enough and you know all the puzzles and you know where the monsters are going to come from, and you just like, okay, so I'm gonna do this without saving. I'm gonna super hard mode here, and you could fly through the game in a little over 2 hours.
Wow. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah. Like I said, it seems bonkers to me now. Like I can't imagine. I can only play a game for like an hour.
There's
now.
2
That's like-
discs on Resident Evil 2.
That's true.
An hour a disc.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a disc per hour, man.
All right, well, let's take a break. When we get back, we'll talk about some of the games that they revealed at E3 and more as Nerd Radio continues.